What's up? This is Jake with Hike 734, hiking with my wife Kristen, and today we actually are climbing, and we climbed to the lovely rounded dome of Spot Mountain, and then worked our way along a long ridgeline over to Red Mountain, all in the Two Medicine area of Glacier National Park. We started out at the entrance station for Two Medicine and worked our way up the old Dry Fork spur trail just for a ways. Then cut up through a meadow and bushwhacked around to get to the top of Spot, followed the ridgeline all the way up to Red Mountain, and then did a bunch of down climbing and following the ridgeline and everything, and finally getting out to the Old Man Lake Trail, and then worked our way all the way back out, back to our car. And we started out in the trees right over by the entrance station, and just kind of a nice, lovely forest. The trail is mostly level, and it's just a really nice walk through a mix of lodgepole and aspen. And we broke out into a big old open meadow, and that big old open meadow is the location of where an old trail used to go through. So I figured we should go ahead and work our way up and make a direct assault onto Spot Mountain. And we started out nicely through the meadow, and then we started to find some old game trails, which was great. And then it started to get thicker. We crossed by this old little pond, and then things went south. We just had to bushwhack just to get up through this just nasty part, and then finally we broke out into the bowl, and we just really followed. We came over into this creek bed and we followed that up, and that was beautiful. A little bit of water running, and yeah, it was fantastic, and it was just great to just see all the flowers, and the water would kind of shut off sometimes and then turn back on. But we were looking up into the Spot Mountain area, and just worked our way up and finally saw a few bighorn sheep, which were really cool to see. And I think that if you were going to do this, you might want to start, or at least give it a whirl, going up the creek bed from the very beginning, which we recorded at night here. But I still think at some point you're going to have to bushwhack, but that's just the disclaimer. But anyways, as we finally got out into this big open bowl, we were looking at our GPS and figured we should probably work our way to the right. So we started working our way up along that ridge, and just had to kind of dance around some good old trees, or crumholts as it's called, and finally just worked up this long rounded ridge. It feels like you're climbing a basketball as you just kind of work through this big rounded ridge, and then finally you're actually closer to the top than you think. And so we popped out onto the top and just had really cool views looking out over into the east with the plains, and then of course just a nice panorama looking all the way around, and you could see Red Mountain right there. But just so you know, that's just one part of Red. Red's about at least 3 miles from Spot Summit, so this is going to be a really big day. So anyways, from there we went ahead and we started cruising on across this really big open ridgeline with wonderful views on both sides, just really loving everything. And we got up to the first point, which is this cool rocky crag, and just really cool views once again all along this walk. We really enjoyed this part, and we just kept scouting the mountain ahead of us just to see how we would navigate it. And this one is not traveled on a whole lot, so there's not a lot of there's no cairns, there's not a lot of stuff written about it. So it's definitely, if you want to do this one, I would recommend this not be your first one at all, because there's a lot of route finding and it was a huge day. So, but yeah, hopefully I jabbered enough to show you some of those views. And then we needed to get up on that big red face, and we were able to just really stay along that ridge line and just work our way up that. And that was super sweet. And as we continued to work our way up, we wanted to get to the base of these certain cliffs. And to the north, one of the really cool things was looking down at the Lonely Lakes, and you can see the one that's a little bit higher, which would have a little bit more glacier glacial flower in it that's suspended would make it a little bit more looking like green. So anyways, really cool lakes. Really love those. We got a few views of those as we worked our way up, which I'll continue to show you. But we got to the base of these cliffs and traversed across the big old scree slopes there. And then once we got across that, then it was just working our way up to get on top of this big red monolith. And once we got up to the top of this one, you could see that we still had a ways to go, because whatever we were looking at in front of us was not going to be the summit. And so we cruised along that ridge line for a while, and it was just wonderful and beautiful. And we realized that we were coming to a part where it was going to go ahead and get a little bit technical again. And so anyways, we just kind of followed around. We spent a lot of time looking for goat trails and figuring out where they would have walked and leveraged those. And but just saw this really, really beautiful lake down below us. And honestly, we just saw beautiful lakes all over the place. There's just, when you get that high, you realize that Glacier is hiding a ton of lakes from the top, and they just kind of drain all the way down to the creeks, and only a handful of them are actually named. But anyways, we just continued our way and just started working our way up this big old goat trail and climbed up. And finally we got all the way to the top and enjoyed some sweet views. Just amazing views all the way around. I mean, you can see all the way up to the north end of the park. You can go ahead and look south and see some of the titans like Stimson. And so anyways, super great. And then it was the time of deciding, should we turn around and follow the ridgeline back? But we decided to continue on and work our way. The original thought was maybe working our way all the way over to Pittamakan Pass, which looked like we could do, but then we also had an option before that last hump that we could go ahead and potentially we could drop down into this one little bowl. So we worked our way down through this rocky scree ridge of Red Mountain, all the way down, and then looked down at that really pretty lake once again. And then we traversed across on this really cool goat traverse. And it was, sometimes it wasn't so cool, but for the most part, it was pretty well traveled by the goats. So that made it really nice. And we finally made it all the way to the saddle, and we looked out and we looked at the GPS and we figured, you know what, let's give this a whirl. So we worked our way down through another beautiful flower field in this really cool basin, and some of our favorite bear grass of the century blooms were still popping, and there were just a bunch of other flowers in there as we worked our way through some red cliffs. And so anyways, yeah, really pretty area through there. And then we had to do a little tiny bit of bushwhacking to go ahead and jump onto the Old Man Lake Trail, which is part of the Dawson-Pittamakan Loop. We were definitely stoked to go ahead and be on a man trail, and so we started just cruising on down that one. And so we've been on that for a little while, but we're getting close to our car. And so yeah, huge day, really amazing. Yeah, it's so fun to be out climbing. Anyways, this is Jake with Hike 734, climbing with Kristen today to Spot Mountain and Red Mountain in the Two Medicine area of Glacier National Park. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe on YouTube and head on over to hike734.com for more goodness.